So my name is Megan Rosowski. I'm the Director of Research at the Minnesota Private College Council, and I am also a MNEEP board member, and I've been lucky enough to co-chair the CREAC with Dr. Fernando Rodriguez and Ikram over this past year and work with all the wonderful folks that have been involved. As we start to talk about policy today and change and system change, we want to start and center a little bit in the data, look at what's happening in Minnesota. The data is not uplifting, but many of us here in this room, we know the challenges that we face in higher education, striving for race equity in higher education, but a lot of times it's really important, especially as we try to bring more folks into the conversation, that we center in the data and we help to make the case that unfortunately we still have to be making, that this is crucial and imperative. So the first chart up here I have, this is data from the wonderful Minnesota Office of Higher Education, where you'll see a lot of this data has come from. But this chart shows where we are at in terms of the state's educational attainment goal. So in 2015, the Minnesota legislature set a goal that by 2025, 70% of Minnesotans ages 25 to 44 of all races and ethnicities would have a post-secondary degree or certificate, right? So we wanted to look at the gaps by race and ethnicity. And you can see the green bars here show where things were at as of 2015 by race and ethnicity, the broad racial and ethnic groups. And the blue bars show where we are as of 2021. So you can see that there's been growth in every race and ethnic category, but there's still large gaps by race and ethnicity. American Indian, Latino Hispanic, and Black higher educational attainment is still significantly lower than it is for multiracial Asian and white adults in Minnesota. Unfortunately, as many of us have probably heard over the past couple years, is the pandemic has had a negative impact on college enrollment nationwide as well as in Minnesota. So this chart here shows the share of high school graduates who enroll in college the year after they graduate from high school, Minnesota high school graduates. And back in 2013, it was 73% of Minnesota high school graduates. And it stayed pretty even coming up to about 2018, and then we see it dip, and in 2021, it was 59%. So there's a 14 percentage point drop in the college going rate of recent high school graduates since 2013, 10 percentage point drop between 2019 and 2021. We saw a real drop off there. Of course, when you break it down further and look by race and ethnicity, the picture is not the same for everybody. This chart shows the change by race and ethnicity between 2019 and 2021. You can see all the groups except for Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islander, abbreviated to NHPI because I ran out of room on the chart, have gone down during that time period. A little bit of an easier way to look at it, this chart shows the change. So between 2019 and 2021, a 10 percentage point drop in Minnesota American Indian high school graduates who enrolled in college the following year, 9 percentage point drop for Asian high school graduates, 13 percentage points for Black high school graduates, 11 percentage points for Hispanic Latino, 6% for multiracial, 8% for whites, and NHPI was up 5 points. But we see the trend, right? And if we look, we had lower college going rates already for some racial and ethnic groups, and they dropped further. So this is, like I said, it's not uplifting, it's depressing, right? We know that we have work to do. I also wanted to point out that educational access is eroding when you also look by income. So Pell Grant recipients, this would be all students who receive Pell Grants enrolled in college in the state of Minnesota, most of them with family incomes below $60,000. Between 2019-20 and 2021-22, We saw over a 14% drop in the enrollment of the number of Pell Grant recipients in Minnesota, compared to half as much for non-Pell Grant recipients. And we know that lower income students, students of color, and American Indian students are disproportionately low income students. Oh, I pressed the power button. Okay, there we go, it's back. All right, so all of these charts should be enough to sound the alarm for folks. This should be enough to make everyone think we've got to get to work, we've got to increase educational access, equity, completion. But sometimes, for some folks, it's not enough. So then we need to flip to, what does it mean for our economy? What does it mean for our workforce? It's not just about self-determination and success, but sometimes you need to put out that economic imperative to pull folks along, right? So Minnesota has workforce needs. High demand careers that require a degree or certificate pay significantly more than the $41,155 average for the high demand careers in the next decade that only require a high school degree. And so you can see there's gonna be 900,000 jobs in high demand occupations that are gonna require a post-secondary certificate or degree in the next decade, right? We're gonna have baby boomers retiring. We are gonna need more nurses, teachers, right? Fill in the blank, welders. And virtually all of the net population growth in the coming decades in Minnesota is going to be from populations of color, students of color, American Indian students. By 2026, people of color and Native Americans will be the majority of Minnesota populations aged 14 to 29, according to the State Demographer's Office. So these are our high school and college students. These are the youngest folks in our workforce. And if we do not increase college enrollment and completion for students of color and American Indian students, Minnesota's economy will not have the workers it needs, right? Our communities won't have what we need. It's gonna have long-lasting reverberations across our economy. So the moral imperative should be enough for folks, that should be enough, but sometimes we have to pull out the economic imperative to bring folks in. And yeah, so that's where we're starting to center a little bit in the data.